So first things first, how are you?
Thank you. I'm good. How are you?
I'm not too bad at all. Thank you for asking. Now, before we get into the music and everything, I'd like to jump back to the beginning, to the very beginning, I suppose. Do you
Oh,
remember your what your favorite horror movie was growing up?
yes, I do. It was actually, I hope my mom doesn't see this. It was with 12 years old. I watched, guess what? The Dawn of the Dead.
Okay.
This is where it all started, actually. But yeah, that was the first horror movie I've ever seen. And it kind of, I mean, I've also seen different movies when I was very young. I've also seen Saw
Mm,
very early, which was quite
okay.
intense.
I
But
can
but I
imagine.
it was horrible. But those are things you do, right?
Sure.
Um, and but I remember that I thought that, all right, I don't like too much the human things. I really like the zombie thing because it was to me
Mm,
just perfect. The thing with the shopping mall and the thing, perfect zombies. They're not too slow. They're not too fast. It was just until today. It's my favorite zombie movie.
this is perhaps difficult to say, but what attracted you to these kinds of kind of scary stories or dark stories? Because it's fascinating why people like these very dark and very disturbing stories at times.
That's a difficult question, to be honest. Maybe it's that just my fucked up head that likes those things. But I mean, it's what I really like about fantasy is that you can really dive into a world and maybe like to get a different perspective and see some different things because like it's I mean, of course, though our zombies are real, but in the end, let's be honest, the it's very unlikely that we will be invaded by zombies like we've seen in The Walking Dead for
Sure.
now. But
Well, we never
that's maybe
know.
the you never know exactly because we're coming on tour for you. uh, but to be honest, I think it's just a fantasy kind of thing. That's the same reason why people like stuff like Lord of the Rings, or Harry Potter, or whatever. It's just a very nice world that you can dive in and that you escape, maybe also from a certain reality that's not always pleasant, right?
Sure.
And because there's so much stuff happening out there which is not cool. And with certain fantasy movies or also concerts, it's a very important thing. That's also like our main goal is to have people attending our shows hopefully have a good time because this is what we're aiming for. We want to entertain and we don't want
Sure.
to be political. We don't want to be whatever. It's just come to this place. We are real because there's also a new layer that we have, right? Everything you see on the internet could be a deep fake, could be like written by ChatGPT or whatever. But when you are in a room with 1,000 sweating people and you're sweating yourself and you raise your fist up in the air, that's true. This is what we love and this is what we aim for in our world.
So is it, I mean, you kind of alluded to it already, but is this what attracted you to the heavier side of music and the more metal side of music as well?
No, that was also something that happened in that period of my life. It was because before I was listening to metal, like when I was 10 years old or
Okay.
whatever, I was listening to radio music, basically. Whatever was in the radio, I liked it.
Mm.
I was always interested in good songs. But then at this one time, I've switched on MTV, which still existed back then, and I've seen Duality by Slipknot, and this is
Mm.
where it all changed for me because I've never seen something like this before. Like the masks and everything was so bucket. What's that? The riffing of Duality,
Sure.
till today, still getting goosebumps. I've never heard or seen anything like that before, and this is what really got me in that kind of genre. And then I went to like the local CD store, and I annoyed the people to hell at this store because I went there almost every day. I almost went there every day. I was like, "All right, is there anything new, dude? You've been here yesterday. No, it's nothing new." And I was always listening to CDs, and then I discovered the next big one was for me like Ozzy Osbourne,
Sure.
and also like things like the Roadrunner United project. Those are all very good things, very good. How do you say, entree drugs to the metal thing, you know?
But one
Uh,
thing I've noticed about the music and listening to Hey Living People is there's a catchiness to it. I don't know if pop sensibility is the right word, but there's a melodicness in the choruses and a catchiness to it. Do you know where that comes from? Are you a big Beatles fan or something like that?
not Beatles, but I would say I'm a big Queen and Journey fan. I've
Mm.
always listened to that kind of music, always, and I'm a very melodic driven guy. And you know, I can play the guitar a bit, I can play a bit of piano, keyboard, whatever, a bit of drums, but I can't do anything properly. So all I have left is like singing, and this is what attracts me most when I hear a song and the melody is good. You know, I don't care about the sound too much. If a chorus or a melody gets me, you know, that's perfect for me. And this is why I work really, why I really care about the melodies on the record, and why I am in this endless feedback loop that you are with yourself when you write songs, right? Is that really the best melody that you can get? Is it really? Is it really? This is what's really frustrating as well, because you kind of tend to then overthink stuff. But yeah, in the end, I'm not afraid of melodies. I love them, and this is why I care so much about them. I mean, to call it poppiness, I don't know if that's the right word,
Right.
but the catchiness, of course. I mean, anthems are also catchy, and this is what attracts me, and this is why it's coming out of my guts.
And I think it fits the music well. We see this a lot in power metal as well. That it has to be a little bit anthemic. It has to be a little bit bombastic in a sense, because that's what kind of drives the music, I suppose. What I like then for you when DOMINUM started, you have a letter posted, and I wrote a line down from that letter, a redefinition of what it means to be alive. Was that kind of the mission statement when you thought about this project?
I mean, yes. The short answer is yes, but of course, like the overall idea for this project was to build an army of metal zombies. Because I don't know how you feel about it, but when you are at a festival and you are with people, and then there is a band on stage that you don't like that much, you maybe hunt for a beer or whatever, and then you go back to the crowd, even though you don't like maybe the band too much, but you still feel kind of well. And
Mm.
this kind of feeling, this kind of being in a community, this is what's really interesting to me. This is what also Dr. Dad, which I play in this band, kind of thinks, and he wants to solve basically the world's problem with his metal zombies. I mean, you replace zombies with metalheads, you know, then it's a different picture. If the world would contain only of metalheads, we would have a better world, right? But you can't talk people into listening to metal and rock music. You have to have something. You have to have stronger arguments, and this is where Dr. Dad comes around with his metal zombies, who can be quite convincing, I would say. So that's like the main goal, maybe solve the world's problems with metal zombies. And
But
of course, then in this letter, you try to find phrases that fit like the thing. And yeah, but this is basically the statement that Dr. Dad wants to give to the living people.
but it alludes to something very interesting, at least to me, looking at all kind of fan bases from all kinds of genres of music. It always feels like the metal community is very tight. They're still willing to buy into all the merchandise, the t-shirts, the designs, all the kind of things. Um, Obviously they bicker maybe about genres and kind of the minutiae of which genre it exactly is, but there seems to be a
Yeah.
collectiveness within metal music, like a how would you call it? A collective outsider mentality or something like that. I don't know how to exactly word it, but how have you perceived the metal audience, and why do you think because when you said, well, if everybody was a metalhead, the world's problems would go away. There is a sense of that because most metalheads are such nice people in my eyes.
Exactly.
And then the music is can be very brutal, which makes it also very interesting. So how do you see? This is a very long, convoluted question, but how do you see the metal audience in a sense?
Yeah, I think I feel it the same as you. I mean, of course, there are always people. We've had kind of a funny thing going on our latest video, which is called Cannibal Corpses.
Mm.
So, and we have like tons of comments below the video which says this is a clickbait, and I thought this is a Cannibal Corpse song. What kind of shit is that? It was just like, no, it was not supposed to be, because obviously someone who's super much into Cannibal Corpse would not is not likely to be a huge fan of DOMINUM, right? So this was, but it's funny that there are also some kind of people who are really strict with rules and what genre is, blah, 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 all that, which is completely fine. I'm good with that. But still, those people, even though they listen to super brutal music, are, as you said, very nice people. And I think it's the same thing like with the fantasy thing. When you go to a metal show, you dive into a different world. You know that there are people who basically want the same thing. If they whether listen to Cannibal Corpse or Cannibal Corpses, it doesn't matter too much. I mean, the genres are very different, but in the end, we have the same goal. We want to bring the metal to the people and have a good time, actually. We don't want to harm anyone. And this is what maybe bonds us together in there, basically wanting the same thing.
And when it comes to the songwriting then, because you have this idea, okay, we want to bring metal to the people, we want to give them a good time. How does the songwriting start? Does it start with you and you kind of create the initial version, or how does that go?
It's very different, actually. I mean, most of the songs are created in this studio here, and I always try to do something that I would like, because I think everything. This is also an interesting point about metal. Most bands do very authentic stuff. They do what they want. They do what feels right for them. And this is what the good bands are, right? Because you can really tell if a band doesn't do that. If a band says, all right now, Amon Amarth is working well, we do an Amon Amarth song right now. It can work to a certain degree, but those really big bands, the real big ones, they always have an own identity and just do what their guts tell them to do. And this is what I try to do in my little studio here as well. I sit down at the piano or at the computer and fiddle around, and when it feels right, and I kind of think, all right, I got something here, I got an idea that's somehow engaging to me, then I try to enhance it and make it better and create a song out of it. And sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. But then, of course, when it comes to playing properly, I need the guys, because I'm a very poor guitar player, I'm a very poor drummer, so I need someone whose real like passion is playing guitar to play the songs, because then they get to life. I can sing on them, but the real life begins when the guys are on it.
Oh, that's awesome to hear. So what is your reaction then? I don't know, do you do this in person or was this over the internet for this album?
I'm sorry, can you say it again?
The exchange of ideas, were you all in the same room or were you sending files over, and how did that work? Just
No,
quickly.
I have to, when I develop an idea, I have to do it to a certain level where it's already convincing to me and that it already sounds like a song. Because my experience is, even though the guys in the band would be able to do that, but I kind of don't want to send around demos that I do for myself, for example, because if you skip through my iPhone, it's very embarrassing. It's just me talking to myself and saying, all right, listen, now the verse could be like 1, 2, 3, 4, and then I sing and play very poorly. And I don't want to send this to anyone. And then we're at the computer, and when you lay out something, it's not that big of a difference if you do it shit or at least medium, and then I send it over, and then of course when the guys say, oh, that might be worth exploring, then I dig deeper into it. Yeah.
Yeah, because what I wanted to get is, what is your reaction when the guys fill those parts in where you struggle in a sense? For instance, is there a song that you sent to the guys and they kind of came back with some ideas or some guitar lines and you're like, okay, this is amazing.
Absolutely. It was what was really crazy to me is when I sent away Frankenstein, because it has a certain riffing that really floats around the melody very much. It's like a it's very, who would even think of playing that? But I kind of arranged it and I just sent it over and said, all right, it's your problem now, please figure it out. And when I heard my guitars in the mix, in my rough mix, they were kind of invisible. But when Tommy sent over his tracks, I just replaced them, the tracks, and obviously, and suddenly the guitars were super loud, and it was like, all right, it didn't change the volume. What's going on here? And this is like a proper right hand instead of my fiddling, you know. And also when he is really the best guitar player that I know. So I'm very gifted that he is on this journey with me. Whenever I send him over something to play a solo on, whenever he always says, yeah, I'm trying something, and then 1 hour later you get like the best solo in the world. Like, what's going on with you? Because even when he plays very simple things, it has so much cry and so much passion in it. It's like all those little things in between the lines that make the difference. And yeah, but he can shred as well. But I think it gets interesting when you play very simple stuff like AC/DC. You know, of course I can play AC/DC, but it sucks, man. But when AC/DC plays Highway to Hell, it's a different thing.
Sure.
So yeah.
Yeah, I remember a quote. They said it was from Jimi Hendrix, but I don't think it was actually from him. But the quote is, they were talking about the blues, and they were saying the blues is easy to play, but very hard to master. So those little easy things, as you mentioned.
Exactly. It's a good quote.
When it comes to the songs, then, because are you so responsible for the lyrics then by yourself?
So I always have help of a friend, but we do that together. Yes.
Because I mean, obviously, you talk about the macabre and the kind of the horror stories, but there's also some wisdom in there and some real life, I suppose, kind of hidden in there, and there's some humor in there. So, what is your approach to the lyrics?
Yeah, I mean, it's very easy to write a lyric about, hey, living people, the zombies are coming. You know, you could easily do a song with this, but this is not what it's about. I mean, of course you can, there are certain songs which you can understand in a very simple way, which is completely fine, but there are also songs where we try to kind of sneak in a message in the zombie universe that that means something. And yeah, this is where it gets interesting, actually, if there are more layers in the lyrics and more dimensions. And for example, I remember when I had the idea of We All Taste the Same. It's like each verse tells a different story, right? In this song, there is like it doesn't matter which color your skin is, even the blue ones, they all taste the same. And there's the zombie perspective and everything. So yeah, this is where it gets fun, and this is what we really try to do, because just having a boring lyric that doesn't fit the style, and this is not why we're doing it, right? We want to have songs that have some depth.
But it makes it work on multiple levels, because then at the live shows, obviously people pay less attention, I think, to the lyrics, and they just want to jump around and do whatever they do. But then if you listen to a studio version just on headphones or something, you can really focus in on the lyrics and catch those little things, which I find is really cool. So I wrote from the title track, for instance, I wrote down, if tonight was your last night, would you dare commit a crime? Which is a very interesting philosophical question, right?
Yes, it is.
So how does a song, a line like that end up in a song like this?
I mean, Hey Living People is a very delicate example, because this might be the song that has the most philosophical input, I would say. But yeah, in general, it always starts with a good line. And we had this, we always, since we posted stuff on Instagram, it always starts with "Hey living people" or "living people." And then a friend of mine had the idea, all right, why don't we do a song with this? And then you like ping pong and see what could it be about and what could we do. And then when you have like good collaborations and good talks like we're having right now, you get something out of it, right? And then you have ideas like those. If tonight was your last night, would you dare commit a crime? Yeah, sure.
Yeah, have you found an answer for yourself to that question?
No. I think that's the interesting point. And I mean, it's like explaining lyrics is always a tricky thing, because each one has, each and everyone has to decide for themselves. But yeah, I'm not prepared for this question. Next time I'll give you a proper answer.
All right. Last song I wanted to talk about was Patient Zero, because that's kind of the one that started it off, I suppose. That was the first one that was released, and I don't know if it was kind of in what timeline it was written, but can you see the development from that song onto all the other songs at the album, on the album, and where you are now? How do you see that development from Patient Zero to where you are now?
So Patient Zero was also not only the first song released, it was also the first song that was done for DOMINUM. It was like where we all heard it and it was like, cool. That's a cool direction. Let's head into this direction. And of course everything changes, and it's when you're writing songs, it's always the same. You want to do something special, but it doesn't have to be too special, because I'm a melodic guy, as you said, so it needs to fit in our universe as well, and blah 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 blah. But yeah, it's I mean it's a constant process, and I'm very curious on how the second record, for example, is going to be, because it's such a long time ago that I wrote those songs. Such a long time. It's maybe the last one is half a year old, but since then I've done like tons of different songs with different artists still, and it's an ongoing process. And yeah, and even on one record, everything changes all the time.
Yeah, and I would say that the band is growing as well, and now people are listening, and you're going on tour. I believe in April and May of next year you're going on tour. So does that all add to kind of the, I don't want to put it like pressure, but does that all add to what you do? Do you have to think about those things?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I mean, the thing is with the first record, for a first album, you have your whole lifetime. For the second album, you have basically 1 year.
Sure.
So it kind of is a bit of a pressure thing, but in the end, it's always the same. You got to trust on your feeling, and you can't help yourself. You do the things you do, and your taste and your ability to do things is the only thing you have, right? So I was in a panic mode after I sent the record out for being put on CDs and vinyls and everything, because I knew, all right, this is the point where I have to start writing new songs. And then like, all right, hopefully this is going to work well, but okay, anyway, it needs to be better than this. How will I manage to do this? Blah 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 blah. But in the end, I just have to tell myself what I tell to the people in the studio. I just have to say, it will be fine. You will write songs, and if it's not good enough, then let's write another 5 choruses. It will be fine. Just trust in yourself, and everything will go with the flow. No worries.
Yeah,
you have to trust. I've heard, I've read in the book of Rick Rubin, which is a very esoteric approach, of course, on producing and doing art and music. But he said something which was very enlightening to me. He wrote that you just have to trust you just have to trust in the flow of the universe, which is very esoteric, but I think I get what he means. Because there are always ideas floating around. You just have to see them and then like dig in that direction. Everything will be fine.
Yeah, and as you mentioned earlier, I think there's also a danger of getting to overthink things and making things difficult
Totally.
without reason. So it's good to keep a clear mind, I suppose. Um, Last question then. What do you hope with what we just mentioned, kind of? What do you hope then that DOMINUM can do? What are your plans? Plans for the future is maybe a weird question, but what do you hope? Because nobody can tell the. I always find those questions annoying because you can't you
Yeah,
can't
yeah, yeah.
tell the future. But what do you hope the band can do, or what is your plan with the band? I've lately, or maybe in the past few years, you've seen all these power bands like power metal bands like Powerwolf and those kind of bands become huge. And is that a similar thing that you want to do, or how do you see what the band will do next?
I mean, our first record is not out yet,
Fair
so
enough.
I kind of have to see how the reactions are and how people like it. But of course, in the end, I want to, or I would love to be able to have a band going that I can tour with my friends. And this is like the greatest thing when you're on stage together with your friends and you look into the audience eyes and just see they're having a good time, because this is always the main goal, that we have a good time together with the people and that we feel the same vibe that's ongoing, and we try to do entertaining music. And just, yeah, I've said plenty of times in this interview like having a good time, but this is what sums it up, and this also what we have off stage, because I've the great gift that friends of mine are playing in this band.
Mm.
So wherever we are, it's fun. Wherever we are, we just do crazy things, and it's like a very, very nice thing to do, to be on tour. And if we can give a little bit of this to our audience, that they have the same the same experience, that would be great.
Well, one quick last question then. What is
Sure.
the best concert you've seen in the past year or so, where you weren't on stage but you were in the crowd, where you got to have fun like a normal music lover?
Well, there are plenty of concerts. I really loved seeing this guy. It's a bit of time ago. It was before COVID, but that was really like huge because I'm such a huge fan, and like, all right, I gotta see him when he comes to Europe. And then he finally came, and it was like it was perfect. But what was also a great gig, and this might surprise you because it's not metal, but I've seen in Düsseldorf Panic at the Disco. I don't know if you're
Okay.
familiar with those
Sure, yeah,
guys.
yeah.
And this was just mind blowing because he sings so well, and the show was so huge. And like, obviously, when like American bands do that kind of venues, it's always something. All right, what are they doing? Blah, blah, blah. And then we seen this huge stage setup, and it changed from song to song. I was so entertained, even though you don't like even though if you would not like the music, I'm sure you would completely enjoy the entertainment on all levels that they brought us. This guy, he came out of the stage flying. It was like that. There was the stage, and there was a hole in the stage. And during the intro, there was just at 1 second, there was one spot on him, and he just flew out of the floor. It was fucking amazing, man. Yeah, this is how it started.
Oh, that sounds amazing. Yeah, no, no, I agree. There's some really interesting bands what they do on stage, and I mean
Totally.
Rammstein is a good example as well, where
Yeah, yeah, sure.
just their show is worth a ticket, just even if you don't
Totally.
like the music, just to see what's going on.
100%. 100%.
Um,
Yeah.
Felix, may I thank you so much for taking the time to talk with me.
Yeah. Thanks for that nice interview. It was very nice.